Hey, what's up, guys? Tony here, and here is another game of MLB 12, and obviously Tony Miller. So, here we go. All of my players are now on the show. So this is Tony Miller's very first start for the Detroit Tigers, which I think is kind of cool. Like, I'll be honest, I was thinking about doing a video for Yoush Sports, and it was going to be a Road to the Show character for 2000 MLB 11, and it never got off the ground because I was actually creating a character for Machinima Sports. That's right, and then I was going to use it for Yoush Sports, and I just didn't. But it was Tony the Tiger or something like that, and I had him playing for the Tigers organization. And I thought that was like, sorry, I got drafted by the Tigers organization. That's what it was. So I was like, oh my gosh, how fortuitous. So, anyways, I do like the fact that I'm playing for the Tigers, and not just because I'm Tony the Tiger, but because Detroit is the Tigers organization has a long history, and especially with say pitchers like Justin Verlander, they've got a long history of really good starting pitchers. And so what it was is when I was traded, I was like, cool, I'm going to be in the rotation with Justin Verlander. Well, however, what happened is by the time I reached the show, I was playing as just like a bullpen relief pitcher. And here's look, Ichiro's definitely lost a step. Boom, burned at second base, buddy. Don't try to steal on me. So when I finally made it to the show, I think this is 2013. I'll have to double check. Every one of my characters has made it to the show like insta fast. It's ridiculous how fast these players make it to the show. And I don't know if they did that intentionally, just because of the fact they want people to get to the show and play through careers, because people were complaining that it took too long to get to the show. Well, now I think it doesn't take long enough, because you get to the show and it feels like your player's not prepared, and I've talked about that before. So anyway, so when I got to the show, Verlander had been traded. I don't know exactly where he went. I think he went to the Rangers or the Phillies or one of those big teams, but it was out of the AL Central. And so anyways, I think I'm the number 5 starter on the rotation, which is cool because it's like less pressure. But it would be nice to. I don't want to be the ace as a rookie. That means that you really have a problem with your organization. So, anyways, I have rambled on now for 3 minutes about pretty much nothing, and the topic that I want to cover, as the title states, is baseball in the Olympics. And if you're a baseball fan, and I assume you are because you're watching this video, you know that baseball and softball are both not in the Olympics this year in London. And it was voted on, and I did do a little research for this topic, but it was voted on by the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, back in July of 2005, that baseball would not be included in the 2012 London Games. And I remember hearing that, and I didn't remember hearing the justification for it. From what I remember, it was because the International Committee felt that baseball was not an international sport and that the Americans would just dominate. And I think that's kind of ridiculous, because if you and I pulled this off just Wikipedia, so I mean I'm hoping it's accurate. I didn't bother to go and really check it, but Wikipedia Wikipedia is pretty good for sports stuff. People are pretty honest when it comes to what happened and records and stuff like that. So Team USA, like, yeah, the movie. So Team USA has been playing in the Olympics since 1992. They made 4 appearances. So this year would have been the 5th appearance for Team USA. And I imagine the 5th appearance for baseball in general. But the first medal that Team USA actually won was in 1996 in the Atlanta Summer Games. And some of you guys may remember that. Some of you may not remember. I do remember that because There was this Jeff Foxworthy CD at the time, and he talks about the Summer Games being in Atlanta, and it was actually really funny the way he put it. Of course, he put like the whole redneck spin on it. So, anyways, getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but so the U.S. team won bronze in 1996, and then it wasn't until 2000 that's when we won the first gold medal. And then in 2008, we won another bronze, and then they took baseball out. Now, since then, what you guys will know, for those, like, again, who are baseball fans, you'll know that Major League Baseball created the World Baseball Classic. And in 2013, we're having the third, I don't want to say annual, because obviously it's not annual, but the third World Baseball Classic. And I can't remember where it's going to be hosted. So the one thing that's weird is that the World Baseball Classic, the first one was in 2006, the second one was in 2009, the third one should have been in the April or March of 2012, but for some reason I don't know exactly what the rationale was behind not having it in this year. Maybe because of the Olympics, I'm not sure. But it's going to be more than likely. It's going to be March of next. It's going to be March of next year. And here's the thing. This is the problem that I have with the idea that baseball is only an American sport and that America will dominate any sort of Olympic Games, softball and baseball. Maybe it's true in softball. I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention to fast pitch softball. So maybe a Team USA would just dominate. And I did not actually bother to look it up since I'm not playing a softball game, I'm playing a baseball game. But the one team has won the World Baseball Classic both times that we've had it, and that's Team Japan. And I have a hard time believing into that, and it happened in 2006. So, I mean, the Olympic Committee could have looked at that and said, okay, so the Americans have won one gold and a bronze in 13 years of, well, I shouldn't say 13 years, but, in several, 2 Olympic appearances, 3 Olympic appearances. And so they felt that because of that, they were going to dominate. I'm not sure. But you take a look at the breakdown. In 2006, Japan won. South Korea was the runner-up. Or excuse me, Cuba was the runner-up. South Korea was 3rd place, and the Dominican Republic placed 4th. And then in 2009, it was Japan again who won. South Korea was the runner-up. Venezuela was 3rd place, and Team USA placed 4th. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, even in a game that was created by Major League Baseball to have an international showcase of players and talent, they're still not dominating the field. And I guess that goes to show, and that goes to show me, and hopefully it shows you guys too, that baseball is not just an American game. I mean, you're looking at the teams that won the first time around. You had 2 Asian cultures, and excuse me for being so general in that. So you got the Japanese and you've got South Koreans out of the 4, and then you've got Cuba and Dominican Republic. So you've got 2 Spanish cultures and 2 Asian cultures. And then the 2009, you've got USA, Venezuela, and Korea, South Korea, and Japan. So again, you've got the 2 Asian cultures, a Spanish culture, and then the Americans. And nowhere do I see the dominance. So, and it gets me thinking about this because there was a little side note that I noticed that baseball and softball were the first sports to be excluded from the Summer Games since polo was excluded in, I think it was 1936. And I don't know the reasons why, but the thing is, though, is if you were to say any one sport that's a Summer Olympic game now that is dominated by an American team, it's basketball. I mean, like every single Olympic Games, Summer Olympic Games, our NBA players go and they just dominate. The Dream Team back in the 90s, this year's team, I think we won bronze one time, the last Olympic Games in Beijing. I think USA won bronze or something like that. Anyways, but they're good. Like they're sort of the way that I see it is they're expected to win because the majority of NBA players are American. So you would kind of expect that to happen. So the whole idea is that if you look at baseball, it's multinational. We've got Japanese players, there are Latin American players, there are Americans, there are Australians in the game, Chinese and Japanese and Koreans, Canadians, everyone. There are a lot of different, I don't even know, maybe there's British. I'd have to go look. I mean, I think there's a small percentage of, British and Russian and I think maybe even French. That would be kind of strange. I wouldn't say strange, but that would just catch me off guard, just because they're French. My point is that baseball is so international and multinational, and it has, I would say it's heavy in the Americas just because of the nature of the beast. But that's not to say that obviously Korea, Japan, teams that have actually won things. It's the Baseball World Classic. The Japan, like I said, twice. Korea's been the runner-up last time, and before that they placed third. They have talent. And the other thing is that no Major League Baseball players, American Major League Baseball players, would participate mid-season. That was the thing too. They would not participate in the Olympics. So what you would get is you got a lot of college players. And I'm not saying that's the reason why Team USA didn't do all that well. But, I mean, if you did have major leaguers going out, mid-season, these are professionals. And I think that's really why the distinction comes in because, well, actually I shouldn't say that because of the fact that the NBA players are professional basketball players and they're playing in the Olympics. So it's not as if they're like, we only want amateurs, just like pure athletes that are not getting paid to do whatever they're doing, in sort of that multi-million-dollar professional aspect. But I imagine some of these players are, or these athletes and the Olympians are getting paid to train as Olympians because then I don't know how anyone would find the time ever to do it if they're trying to make their bills and stuff. So anyways, again, the point is just baseball's so multinational, and I don't quite get it. Like, of all the teams, of all the sports that could have or should have been banned, or I should say not banned, but just not included in the games, it'd be basketball. I don't quite get it. As a baseball fan, I was pretty put off because it's as if the international committee, they made it sound like baseball wasn't like a legitimate sport, like as if it just doesn't rank with such things like basketball, swimming. I even heard some people ask, why isn't football a sport in the Olympics? And it's like that. Okay, football is very much an American and Canadian sport now, but it's primarily an American sport. So yeah, I could see that because there are not a lot of countries that play football from what I know. I mean, I know there's the European Football League, but I don't know exactly, what extent. So, and I think another thing that kind of bothers me is it leaves this sort of a bad taste in your mouth because athletes. I think when I was a ball player back in my days, when I was playing competitively, when you play like in all-star games and stuff like that, you really got a kick out of representing something more than just this, the team. Suddenly, like, if you won a regional tournament, you went on. So then suddenly you were representing, like, San Diego County for me. And then if you went on from there, you're representing Southern California. And if you won California, then you're representing California, and so on and so forth, kind of like the Little League World Series. But pretty soon, you're representing the Little League World Series, you're representing the United States. And you're playing against Japan or something like that, And that was also something else that I was just kind of like, why didn't they think about the Little League World Series? Because they've got teams from all over the world that come to the States to play. It's not as if this is just a game that we all play in our backyards, and only Americans like it. I know the opinions of some of the Europeans that I know who don't particularly like it, but then there are Europeans that I know who actually love it, like Robin, for example. He's a great example of a guy who, German guy, just loves baseball. Has been playing baseball as long as he has been. So it just baffles my mind. And I don't want to say, I don't want to make it sound like I'm not watching the Olympics as baseball's not in it, but I just haven't had that interest to watch the Olympics this year, just because of the fact that baseball is not included this year. I'm not vetoing the Olympics at all. So I do intend to watch, because I'm kind of I'm interested to see if Michael Phelps wins a boatload more medals. I haven't really been following that. But I mean, his last appearance when he won, I think it was 7 or 8 medals or something like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, So basically, I'm just confused, as to why. Maybe if you guys know in the comment, if you guys know who are listening in the comment section, if you guys have a more in-depth or a link, possibly. I know you can't put them in the description, but if you can put it, like the little hidden way of putting a link in there. If you have the reason why baseball was disallowed or not included in this round's Olympic Games, I'd be interested to read it, just because, like I said, from what I heard, it was just because of the fact that they think that baseball is just an American game, even though I clearly see it, and I don't know about you guys who are listening, but I clearly see it as an international game. It is one that I feel is worthy of being in the Olympics. These players who do play are worthy of being Olympians. It doesn't always just have to be, swimming and, cross-country running, and all sorts of very, quote, traditional Olympian-like events. I think this place, I think it, I think the game itself has a place in a lot of people's hearts, and I think it belongs in the Olympics. And I can only hope that it'll make a return, but I mean, if not, I guess we'll just have to do with the World Baseball Classic. And I say that not like as if the World Baseball Classic is not a great substitute for the Olympics, but there's just something about the pomp and circumstance of the Olympics, like the opening ceremony. This one, it was pretty spectacular. I was blown away by it. And so for our ball players to be there and to take part in that's something special, and that's something that I think they should be able to experience in their career. Some of these guys, the last Olympic team, you look at the roster, and some of these guys actually are Major League Baseball players now. But not a lot of guys can experience that. So, anyways, guys, that's been my time. I pitched 7 solid innings, gave up 8 hits though, and had a pretty decent go of it. So, anyways, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll talk to you later.